Welcome back to Misunderstood. I hope you guys are having a great Thanksgiving holiday. So, today's guest is a total inspiration and one of the reasons I even started a podcast, just so I could sit down and talk to my own personal heroes. And Lee Asher is definitely that. He started the Asher House Animal Sanctuary with a dream of fulfilling his life's purpose. With nothing more than hope and an RV, he quit his day job in corporate America and set off on a mission to rescue dogs. But his story started way before that. Lee overcame severe learning disabilities, scoliosis, a tumultuous upbringing, and years of being bullied by his peers. He knows better than anyone that sometimes you have to go through some pain to truly appreciate life's happiness. And you do not want to miss a moment of his story. So get the tissues ready and enjoy our encore episode of Lee Asher. Welcome back to Misunderstood. I'm your host, Rachel Yucatel. My next guest, Lee Asher, is one of the most inspirational people I've ever come across. He founded the Asher House, an animal sanctuary, which on Instagram, over 1 million people are currently following Lee on his journey, rescuing and rehabilitating animals that have been abused and abandoned, giving them a permanent home to live out their lives. Here to tell his story is the one and only Lee Asher. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you deeply for having me. It means a lot. Thank you.
So let's start with not who you are now, but how you became who you are. Tell me about your childhood, where you're from, what that was like for you growing up.
Wow. I actually grew up in Florida, which I just found out you're there now. So I grew up in Florida. Yeah. Like many people, which is important to recognize, I had a very unique childhood. I grew up with severe learning disabilities. So in school, I had to be separated from all the cool kids and pretty much everyone who had groups of friends and cliques and athletes. I grew up with severe learning disabilities, ADD and ADHD and all these things. And I spent most of my time, the majority of my time, either alone or with animals. I didn't have many friends or many people to go to for really anything, and I always wanted to fit in. It's not that I didn't care. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be part of a group. I wanted friends, but I never felt not only welcomed, even if I was welcomed, I didn't feel comfortable. I felt just the most at peace if I was either alone or with animals. And not to fast forward, but by learning that, that's kind of how my journey started. You know, I really accepted the fact at a young age that I was different, and I stopped trying to fit in, which brought me a lot of happiness by just being comfortable to accept the fact that I was very different, you know? And I started going to animal shelters as often as I could. I would even run away from school sometimes. There was an animal shelter about a mile down the road from where I went to school, and I would go there during lunch and breaks. I would go there all of the time. They thought I was, luckily I've always been very tall for my age. I always looked older, so they thought I was, an adult, but I was quite young, and I would go and I would just sit with the animals, and I used to bring them food from my cafeteria and treats, and yeah, it was just different. I can't explain it. I look back at my childhood often now. Like, I always look back at that little boy, and it's interesting that I don't feel I'm much different now. Besides, the insecurity aspect, I was, of course, very, very insecure. Pretty much throughout my entire, even up until my young adult life, until my mid-20s, very, very insecure, very lost. I never understood what I was doing here. And a lot of the questions I asked myself as a little boy, just a kid, I still ask myself today. It's interesting. I'm doing what I always envisioned I would do, but my mindset isn't much different.
Right. So did your parents get you a pet of your own, or you had to go and volunteer to go see other animals?
It was really sad because I had a pet and I became allergic to dogs and allergic to anything with fur. I had severe allergies. I was always sick as well. And looking back at it, it was definitely because of stress. My parents were always screaming at each other. They were very, very loud and very negative about everything. And it was, they're still alive. So I always feel a little bit of guilt when I talk about it.
Mm.
But it was just a really, really just an unfortunate way for a child to view a relationship, which really messed me up until honestly recently, thinking of what a relationship should look like and sound like. And it was just awful. So looking back at why I was always sick and I had like severe scoliosis, when I would go to school, I had to wear this huge back brace. So imagine being a kid with learning disabilities with a back brace, tall, can't defend himself. So like I was just this tool to get bullied. And I finally had a dog and it was like the most amazing thing. And then they took the dog away from me because I became allergic. I was allergic to everything. I mean, you name it. You name it. And I was allergic to it. Like I remember begging for a rabbit and I couldn't have the rabbit. So eventually by going, as I mentioned earlier, I would go to these animals. And I got to tell you, I kind of feel a little bit guilty because I'm acting like I had it so terrible. But everything that I went through, without a doubt, has shaped me to what I'm able to do now and to have the compassion I have for not just animals, but people.
Yeah.
So as I talk about my childhood, I want you to know that I really don't regret a thing. And I also know, not regret, I wouldn't change a thing, excuse me. But I also know that my parents, understanding who they are now, really did the best that they could at the time. They really were doing their best. And in their minds, were the best parents in the world. So I just want to say that. But by ignoring the fact that I was allergic to dogs and going to the animal shelters, I think that I built a strong enough immune system to where I wasn't allergic anymore. And eventually I was able to get a dog. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. I think what you said was so important because so many people look back on their lives and they have a lot of regrets or guilt or shame, or they feel really bad about their childhood and want to change it so much. But I think it's so important for people to realize that that shapes who you are. And unless you have lows or things to, compare to what's good, you don't know the difference. Like there's such a
You
pendulum.
know,
You have to be able to feel the negative to be able to feel the positive. And it's such a great thing for people to realize that who you are is shaped by where you came from, and you can just learn a bunch of lessons. And it's okay to kind of be in it and know that that's shaped who you are and you're a better person for it instead of wishing it was different. Right. I mean, that's how I feel.
yeah, I mean, you nailed it. If you could correct me, I forgot what you said, but can you repeat that one part? In order to know how
Oh,
to be so positive, say it
yeah,
again.
I see things. I actually have a tattoo down my spine of it that says, without pain, happiness has no meaning. And I believe in
Yeah.
a pendulum.
So like you bring up a beautiful point. I have this, I go to therapy and I really invest in my mental health, and no one's ever been able to help me look at what I'm about to tell you in a positive light. Up until a couple of days ago, I have a personal trainer, and he said to me, he was making a joke. He said, my mother-in-law father follows you on Instagram. She asked me if you were single. So I said, he asked me like if that happens a lot and stuff like that. And I said, it's interesting. People get this image of me on social media, but they don't know how toxic it is to date me.
Mm.
How toxic it is. And he said, he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're the nicest guy I've ever met. I love training you. If I had a daughter, he has a son. If I had a daughter, I don't think I could want her to date anyone else but you.
Uh-huh.
And I said, his name is Rod. I said, Rod, sometimes I could be in the room with someone and I think about something negative and I create like nothing at all happens, but all of a sudden I become completely cold and shut off. And I said, I could be at a restaurant and I could hear someone speaking badly about someone. And you would think that they were talking to me. I said, I take on everyone's energy and I become this toxic person. And of course, since nothing happened, the person in the room thinks that they did something wrong. And the more they push to try to figure out what they did wrong, the more upset and closed off I get. And I said, it's such a terrible trait that, I feel so bad for the people in my life. And you know what he said to me? He said, Lee, you're the most giving person. Like, because I'm with him 2 hours every morning, so he hears me on the phone. If he needs a favor, he knows me very well. And he said, I'm so glad to hear you say this, because I was wondering, like, there's got to be something wrong with him. And he said, but there's nothing wrong with you. He said, I believe in order to be as good as you are, you also have to be bad. Like, you also have to be low. And he said, for you to jump really high, what do you have to do? You have to crouch down low to the floor. And it was he explained it better, but it was such a beautiful way for me to view it, as if I can go really good, really high, but in order to get really high, you have to go really low sometimes, and it's true. I believe the most amount of growth is in the struggle. There is no life without pain. It teaches us the most beautiful things in the world, it's when you know that pain is happening for you and not happening to you, which is a really hard thing to understand. When you're able to embrace it and know that it's for you, like, I believe, my personal belief, that anything that happens to us in our life is so that we can make another life better. I believe that no matter what you go through, it's not for you. It's for you to use that energy, that tool, that wisdom, that experience. It's for you to use that to help another person in some way. And then that person uses that, and that is the gift of life. That is why everyone's looking for their purpose. We all have the same purpose. It's to help each other in some way.
Right.
We can all help each other in different ways, but that is your purpose. It's to help people. We all have it.
Our friends from Manscaped want to wish everyone a happy holidays. And ladies, if you have been looking for the perfect gift for your special someone, look no further. Santa's helpers have been working hard to bring you Manscaped's brand new Performance Package 5.0 Ultra for the man in your life. Featuring the new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Ball Trimmer for the perfect mix of naughty and nice, go to manscaped.com and use code UNDERSTOOD for 20% off plus free shipping. Get like Santa and slay the holidays this year with Manscaped. So, guys, seriously, I know that it's hard every time you're looking for a gift for a man, whether it's your man, whether it's a man in your family, whether it's a friend. I'm telling you guys, this is the perfect gift. You're literally looking at the Manscaped Performance Package 5.0 Ultra. It's the ultimate bundle. It includes the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra and the Weed Whacker 2.0 ear and nose trimmer. They both feature proprietary advanced skin-safe technology and are waterproof, so he can get ready in the shower, no hair in your drain. It also includes Manscaped's liquid formulations and 2 free gifts. Manscaped's Boxers 2.0 premium underwear and the Shed 2.0 toiletry bag. If your guy is still wearing his old boxers with holes in them, then Manscaped Boxers are the perfect upgrade for you. I'm telling you guys, this is a great gift. And if you're a man and looking for a gift for yourself, you cannot beat this. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code UNDERSTOOD at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code UNDERSTOOD. Gift him Manscaped and unwrap your favorite present this year. Guys, are you missing a little excitement in your life, in your everyday life? It doesn't just have to be in the evenings. You can get lost in a fantasy world with hundreds of sexy stories on Dipsea. Dipsea is an app with hundreds of short, sexy audio stories designed by women for women, and new content is released every week, so you'll never get bored. They bring immersive soundscapes and realistic characters right to you. You can discover stories about second chance romances, and at Misunderstood, we love a second chance, especially when it comes to love. They also have stories about adventurous vacation flings, fantasy series about vampires, Greek gods. There's so much more to explore. They even have soothing sleep stories and wellness sessions. You really have to try this out. So I had never heard of this, but once I found out about Dipsy, I was hooked. Guys, I put on my headphones and I will take it with me to the supermarket. If I'm going on a walk, if I just need some extra excitement in my life, it really keeps you focused. I honestly think it's the sexiest thing I've heard in a long time. So please check it out. For listeners of our show, Dipsy is offering an extended 30-day free trial when you go to dipsystories.com/understood. That's 30 days of full access for free. When you go to dipsystories.com/understood, you spell that DIPSEA stories.com/understood. Enjoy.
And I believe that to my core. And, the people, I hear stories of what dogs go through, cats. I hear stories that, really test me. Can I believe in people again? Can I trust people again? And it's like, yes, you can, because this is so you can teach, so that you can inspire. This is not for you to learn this and experience this and be closed off from it is the opposite of what the universe wants you to do with it,
Right. So, in bringing up that point, you've talked a lot about how you had a fear of death when you were younger and the concept of uncertainty. When did that start for you? And also, how did you figure your way out of that? So, you changed your mentality on that fear.
Wow, you're really good at this. My goodness.
I've done a lot of research on you.
I'll never forget the story. And by the way, I know sometimes I could talk a lot. I'm not as sensitive as I once was. Never hesitate to interrupt me. Okay, please.
I'm not going to interrupt you, but go ahead. I love.
But I don't mind if I'm rambling. But I'll tell you the story. I was sitting on my parents watched a lot of news. The news was always on every TV in the house. The news was on, and I was sitting on my mom's bed while she was getting ready for work, and I had just been able to start talking and understanding things. And somebody died. I think it might have been Frank Sinatra, if I am not mistaken. But somebody died, and I asked my mom, how did they die? And she said, whatever she said, they died, right? And I said, how can someone die like that? And she said, a lot of people die that way. And I said, how else do people die? And she said, you name it, And then she said, she's like, Lee, you know that everybody dies, right? And I said, everybody dies? She said, everybody. I said, and then what happens? She's like, I don't know. And when she said that, my world, I remember feeling nothing but fear. And again, she did the best that she could, but in that moment, instead of comforting me and letting me know, that it's about the journey and that life, she was like, grow up. Everybody dies, snap out of it. I'm going to work. It was very cold and quick. And I started just obsessing over the thought, it brought me such anxiety. I used to just think about it and out loud, I'd say, no, don't think about it right now, no. And I realized, I think I really had that fear up until I kind of found my purpose. That's really what took it away. It was figuring out why I was here. Because then it doesn't matter to me what happens after you die. It matters to me what happens while I'm alive.
Right. Right. That's
amazing. And that changed my whole perspective. Is finding the Asher House, creating the community, and also, to be honest, and not this is what I'm about to say isn't very positive or optimistic, but it's the truth. As you get, for me, as being so invested into animal rescue, you can go to the shelter without really knowing much about animal rescue. You just know about the dog. But with what I do now, finding so much about how cruel people can be, how unfair life can be, I started thinking to myself that death can't be that way. That I am more curious, about what would happen. Instead of fearing it, I'm more curious, because I don't think anything in the world would be as unfair or as cruel as how life can be. Now, I also believe that life can be beautiful and peaceful and all this, but I think what I now have the belief where my feeling, my answer is not the unknown, that I believe there's a peace to it. And that's why it's so important, to do your best to find that peace here and do your best to make it count. But I don't think that it will be that unfair once we're gone, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So, I think that's so important what you're talking about, finding your purpose, because so many of us are lost, right? And even if we're chugging along and doing what we think we're supposed to do, and we, find that partner, or we have kids, or we find a job, sometimes people are still really unhappy and they can't figure out why. And, I'm 48 years old and I'm doing my best to, reinvent my life all the time and figure it out, because I've realized that sense of being unhappy is because I haven't found a purpose. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm constantly trying to figure it out. I think it's the first step is for your second act of life, kind of, or even getting to that point where you feel like your life has started, is finding that purpose. And for a lot of people, it's really hard, but it sounds like for you, at some point, you were able to figure out your purpose. And so I want to get into that, because that's where you kind of flourish and become someone new, even though you're talking about being the same person, but it's when your life started. Sure. So you quit your job, you traveled in an RV across the country to rescue animals. And I want to know what that was like. What were you doing as a job to begin with that you quit?
Yeah, I was working for a finance company where I would go to different sales companies and help them with like motivation and sales strategies to, increase optimization and to be more motivated, talk to them about energy and health, a lot of what I talk about now. But I would do it, for a corporate company and go in there. They would call me a corporate trainer, but the truth is, can I curse on here or no?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, it was bullshit. I didn't know at all how to train a company. I never owned a business. I was just a tall guy who looked good in a suit, who can reiterate words from other people. It's all about motivate, but I didn't know anything about it. I felt like such a phony.
Because it wasn't from your experience, right? It was just something you read and
I believed it. It's not that I didn't believe it. I believed, you need to be healthy and you need to work hard and go, all these things. But you should never speak about something unless you experience it. You should never ask somebody how to start a business or how to run a business if he's never or she's never done those things, So I was just a phony. I was so tired of being a phony. I was so tired of being like everybody else. I was so tired of not starting my own path, my own way. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because you mentioned death. I thought a lot about death, and it's like, what's this thought that you're going to live another 10 years? What's this thought that you're going to live another 5 years? You don't know shit. You don't know what the fuck is going to happen tonight. I said, what do you love to do, Lee Asher? What do you love to do? I said, I love to help people. What else do you love to do? I said, I love to help animals. Fucking go do it. Go figure out how to do that. Those are the two things that you don't need to make money from to be happy. Go do that and nothing else. And that became my obsession, to figure those things out. How do I do that? And the answer was right in front of me, because I had, I was at the shelter and I was making videos of animals, and people loved the videos at the time. And it was getting animals adopted. So I said, why don't I do this? How do I take it to the next level and the next one? I kept thinking like, okay, this I can only take this to here, right? To this level. What can I do now to take it to the next one? And that's what I kept focusing on, is the next level, which I'm sure I could tell you're someone who has really high standards, because you talked about your purpose, which I think you do such a good job at this. So you obviously have really high standards. So people with high standards, it's much harder for them to find their purpose, right? Because you'll find your purpose. You say, no, that can't be it. Right? It has to be this, it has to be that, right? But a lot of times our purpose is just that, is just doing that little bit of good. That one person's life that you saved, that was it. You continue on that path, not that you retire, but you just keep. But anyways, I knew for me, like, I had to leave it all behind.
Mhm.
I had to leave it all behind, right?
So
And
what was that
yeah,
like, literally quitting your job, not knowing where your income was going to come from?
oh
And
my,
how did you do it?
I was just thinking about this morning. I seriously, Rachel, I was just thinking about this. I was at the gym and I was having a hard time with my workout. And sometimes when I'm having a hard time, what I do is I think of harder times.
Mm.
So whenever I'm having a hard time, I think of a time that was harder for me that I got through it, and that always helps me with the hard time, which
Mhm.
is a really good strategy. So I was thinking about the day that I told my mentor my plan. His, his name is Al. He lives in Palm Beach, and this is the only guy who I felt ever thought I'd be successful. Right? There was one guy who thought I'd be successful, and it was, very successful guy, and his word meant everything to me. And I told him my plan, and he said, for the first time ever, he called me stupid.
Wow.
He's like, "Wow, you're stupid." I said, "No, don't say that." I remember. He said, I really believed in you. Past tense. And now you're doing this. Because the way everyone would explain it, you're quitting. This is what you're quitting your job to travel with dogs in an RV. And it's like, you could say anything with that tone and make it. I said, no, I'm going to visit. I'm going to go to different shelters. I'm going to visit shelters and get animals adopted. And I'm going to be able to teach people how to train rescue animals and how to build a bond. And, I'm passionate about it. And I remember just like, you feel so small. Like you feel like, I felt like how, like, just like back I did in those classes, you so alone, so misunderstood, like nobody gets it, and it's at that moment that you can decide. That is a pivotal moment for your life, your career, your relationships. It's that moment where you say, okay, here's the decision I have to make. I'm going to not, it's not about proving everyone wrong. It's about, am I going to prove to myself that I'm right, or am I going to prove them that they're right?
Right.
You should never want to prove to them that they're wrong, right? Because now you have ego involved in your mission. There should never be ego involved in your mission. The battle is always within. Am I going to prove to myself that I'm right? And I was born with all these, dyslexic and ADD and this and all that. Can't do math, can't do this. All because I'm supposed to do this with my life? Or am I going to show them that they were right? You see? And that was the moment, I said, I'm going to do everything it takes. Like,
And that's so
as,
brave, because it's so hard for people, because so many people ask outside opinions, right? And that sways
no,
somebody
no,
in
no,
their
no,
life.
no, 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 no. You never, today, somebody asked me my opinion on an invention that they want to create, right? And I said, will my opinion make a difference in whether or not you do it or not? And they said, I'm not sure. And I said, first decide if you're going to do it no matter what, then ask me my opinion.
Yeah.
Right?
That's such a great answer. But that's such
Like,
a great lesson that you're giving people on, don't be swayed because somebody else is disappointed in your decision, because
right.
ultimately you will feel disappointed if you don't follow your own path. I mean, that's why so many people are stuck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. When they say the affirmation, which I love, all you need is within you now, right? That is because it is completely, you are the controller. You are all of it. You are everything that you need to do what you need to do. You
Yeah.
are everything that you need to be able to pivot, right? There's a difference, right? Let's say, for example, it's a basketball player who's obsessed with basketball. I have to play basketball. I have to play basketball. What that person needs to do is realize they don't have to play basketball, but they have to be involved in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to pivot. You have to love it so much that you're willing to let the universe eventually tell you, listen, you literally don't have legs. You can't play basketball in the NBA, but you can be a hell of a fucking coach.
Right.
And that's what it's about. It's about not letting people tell you, but you understanding what you're able to do and what you're able to accomplish, but never taking your eyes off the main goal, right? You have to have your eyes so laser focused on it. And I was lucky, a lot of people tell me this, which they're right. Excuse me while I take my jacket off. A lot of people say it was easier for you to make this decision because you didn't have a wife or children. I did have a girlfriend at the time that, I knew with where my head was at, my focus was going to be my passion. But, it, when someone says, yeah, but I have kids, I have this, I have that, at the end of the day, these are all the reasons why you should do it.
Yeah. Right.
When people tell me their reasoning of why they can't get to a certain point in their life or their career, they're telling me the reasons why they should. Right. You're telling me all the reasons why you should be, even if you fail, you're teaching your kids that you went for it no matter what, Right. We have such a short window, Rachel. Like, if you think about it, right? It's not, even if you lived till 100 years old, in order to be a healthy operator as a human being, you have to get enough sleep, minimum 7-8 hours, right? You have to exercise minimum an hour. You have to eat right, so you have to plan that accordingly. You have to invest rest. You have to invest your, whether it be meditation or cold or sauna. You have all of these things that you have to do to be clear and focused. You have such a short window to do something amazing. So we should never spend that time with reasons of why we're not doing it.
Right.
Everything should be to better your life, to better you are an energy. Like you have no control over that. You are an unstoppable energy. When you move, energy moves with you. You walk into a restaurant, that energy is now formed with all these other energies. You have a responsibility as a human being to be an unstoppable force for good. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's why everyone's so messed up right now, because there's so much negative energy, so many people making bad decisions that you're kind of, people are confused of which direction they should go.
Right.
But you need to be laser focused on your mission. You need to be laser focused on your passion. You need to, when you're doing that, you don't judge others, you don't make fun of others, you don't put negative, you're too busy and you're too focused on being a force for good.
Right.
That should be everyone's rule, everyone's intention, to be a force for good every day,
And it sounds like, from what you're talking about, you really believe in the power of positivity and manifestation. And I know from doing some, following you, that when you set out on your journey, you had a vision board for yourself. Do you think that's important for people? Do you still have one? Do you still go by that mentality?
I don't have the actual board, because in my mind, now it's about maintaining. I accomplished the entire board. Like literally from A to Z, the board is all checked off, right? So although I still have the board, I don't go to it for vision. I go to it to humble me, right? But now it's all about maintaining the board, making sure that the visions of the board don't fall off, of course. It's hard to get there, but it's harder to maintain, I can tell you that.
Right.
And I think that people should use any sort of positive influence that helps them. I'll tell you what I don't like to see is people who have a vision board because they read it, that it's good in a book. You have to have a vision board because that if you use it as a tool, not as artwork, right? That's why it's so important not to bullshit yourself, because bullshitting yourself is a habit, right? You buy the book that you never read. No, I don't believe, and I say this with absolute respect, I know books change lives and movies change lives and motivational speakers change lives. All that shit, but man, you already know it. You already know what to do. You just have to apply it, and apply it consistently.
Right.
No one can teach you consistency, and no one can teach you discipline. Those are the two things that are going to get you where you need to go, whether it be physical, weight loss, weight gain, strength, whatever it be. Consistency, discipline. Whether it be money, consistency, discipline. A good relationship, a healthy relationship. You can't wake up and stop giving a shit about your relationship one day. You have to consistently, be a good partner, right? be disciplined, all these things. It's an everyday thing. And once you lack either of those things, you realize you have to accept the fact that your mission is not that important to you. It's more, people take on more hobbies than missions, I found.
So one of the things on your vision board that you were talking about earlier was to go on Ellen, and you made that happen, or it happened for you because so many people kept contacting her and saying, Lee Asher should be on your show. Tell me about what it was like to be on Ellen.
It was a cool experience, you know. I respectful to her. I don't think I would do it again. I never said that before, but I think I did it, and I don't see myself doing it again.
So she's seen as like the queen of mean now for a little bit. Did she treat you like that, or did you feel honored being there?
No, she was very nice to me. She was very nice to me, and I can't comment on her work environment because, you know, from my experience, whatever I would have to say would be fabricated. They don't give you enough. You know, you're in a room by yourself. You're watching Ellen on the screen. And then they say, okay, now you're on Ellen, you know, so I could not comment on that, but
it must have helped you and gave you a lot of visibility. No,
I thought it was going to be more. To me, you know what the best part about being on Ellen was? It said, okay, you see, you could do it.
Right, you've made it. It's just something to check off on your list. It's a guide to follow.
I never, even today, I don't feel like I've made it, which I think because it happened to me later in my career. You know, success didn't happen to me until my 30s. So I never felt like I made it. I know how hard it is. But when I made it on Ellen, it was like one of the further things down before a sanctuary. It was like the 8th thing on my list to accomplish. And when I made it, I said, wow, you know, you're about to almost check everything off. You have like 2 or 3 more things to check off, which I gave myself like 5 years to do, which, you know, because of COVID, I did it a lot shorter. But that to me was like, you are on the right path, Lee. Goodness always prevails. You've made mistakes, you know, you have regrets in your business, you know, but you kept doing the right thing. And that's something that really the Ellen show taught me. Like, I kept doing the right thing and I was able to get on that show. And that was really a beautiful, like, stay on this direction type of thing. You know what I mean?
Right. So talk to us now. So you started in Florida, you get in an RV, you start driving across country. Did you know you were going towards Oregon, or did you?
No, I didn't. I started in California. So I grew up in Florida.
Oh, okay.
But I grew up in Florida, but with that job I told you about, it would require me to live in a different city and state every 3 to 4 months. So I hadn't been back to Florida in quite some time, and still today I haven't been back to Florida in years. So I haven't been back to Florida in a while, and I was living in California at the time. And the reason I decided to do the RV thing is because Instagram Live had just came out. It was brand new, and I was doing a live every few days, and everyone was saying, I would love to meet your dogs. Come, you know, if you could, this shelter needs your help. This shelter needs your help. This shelter needs your help. And I thought to myself, how the hell can I, you know, I want to give the people what they want. I didn't have many followers. I had like maybe 15,000, 20,000, which at the time I thought was like, oh my God, this is so crazy. And I was doing a lot of my work in my friend's RV, in my friend Luke's RV. So I said, as a joke, maybe I could fix this and come meet everybody. And as soon as I said that, I felt like this energy to my, like, you know, like you can't, it's just like this sign, this idea, this is it. And all of a sudden I said, what am I, wait, on the live. I was like, wait, maybe I could really do this. This is such a good idea. And that's when it started coming together, you know? And I went with we got the RV, which was like this beautiful experience because I couldn't afford it. So I had a Kickstarter and we raised $40,000 and I bought this RV and I left. And I remember leaving California, and I remember thinking to it was supposed to be a 3-month trip. So I didn't think that this was going to be a new start to my career. You know, I thought it was just going to be a step. And I remember looking back in the RV, seeing the dogs behind me, and I said, "This is it. This is not going to be it. This isn't the next step. This is the next chapter."
Right.
And I ended up traveling around the country with started with 7 dogs, then 9 dogs, then 11 dogs, and we went all around. We went every single state, even all the way to Anchorage, Alaska.
Wow.
Yep. And it was such an experience. And we got so many dogs adopted and met so many of our followers and fans. And it was just this crazy experience. It's living in the RV that really founded and built and shaped who I am today and started this next chapter of my life, because it was living in the RV when COVID happened and I couldn't travel anymore. Mm-hmm. Right. So I was stuck for a moment until I said, no, this is happening for me, not to me. Mm-hmm. And I said, if I can't travel in an RV, I need to still impact the world. I need to still inspire people and still rescue animals. What can I do? And the idea for the animal shelter was very, very soon after that whole thought process. But throughout my travels, Rachel, at one time when I was camping in Oregon in the RV. I was camping in Oregon, and it wasn't in the winter. it was in the summer, and I was like speechless. I couldn't believe the way how vibrant everything is, how green. The amount of land and trees. I said the coast. Have you ever been to the Oregon coast?
I have not. No.
It's you can't explain it. I mean, the rock formations and everything is just like, to me, I said, this is where I want to be. And the winters are really tough. It's really tough. You have a lot of mud, and the dogs are always wet, and it's cold and it's windy. But just like you said earlier, the pain, for happiness to be that beautiful, you have to go through the pain. For Oregon to look like the way it looks in the fall and the summer, it has to go through the darker weather. It has to go through these times, and it's worth it, because to me, it's the most beautiful place. And like, seriously, like in all of the U.S., I think Oregon is the most beautiful.
We all need to go then. So talk to
Absolutely.
us about the developing, you talked about developing the idea of the Asher House. So you finally get this sanctuary. How did it become more of bringing in animals to take care of them and give them their forever home, as opposed to creating a place for you to just have dogs and other animals adopted out?
How did I say it one more time?
So it's more, Asher House is more of a place where animals can come now to live out their life, correct? As opposed to you creating a shelter for dogs to come and get adopted.
Yep.
And was that because you had more land and you figured, oh, exactly. I can really take these in as a sanctuary?
There's a couple of reasons. So the first thing is, where we live, the county that we live, when we bought the sanctuary, we weren't aware of this until after, but where we live, you're not allowed to adopt animals out from your home. Oh, okay. You're not allowed to have a rescue from your home. So we decided, we have an amazing partner called New Life Animal, Family Dog New Life. We're starting to collaborate. So the Asher House's name is going to be in there soon. We're going to mesh it together and call it New Life Asher House. Right. But for now, it's Family Dog New Life Animal Shelter, and amazing shelter in Portland. And their shelter is set up like a daycare. So there's no kennels. All the dogs are there together. So we have partnered with them. And when we bring in animals that we believe will do well with the family, we bring them that we rehabilitate them there, get them to a certain place, and then Family Dogs will adopt them out. But a lot of the times we take in dogs and people don't see this part, and they ask, like, please adopt that dog out, but they don't realize what that dog would be like outside of the pack. The amount of dogs and the type of people that we have here is such a healing environment for most dogs. Like 99.9% of dogs that come here have some sort of trauma, are neglected, starved, So they have so many trust issues that if they're ever put back in a similar environment, right, that they were in before, it's this awful experience where it completely reverses everything and they just become a different, back to the original type of dog that they were. So a great example is we had this dog that, they warned us would bite, warned us would tear everything apart. This dog was beaten and neglected and completely starved. So we don't see those characteristics. When I take in a dog, for some reason, I have nothing but confidence that we can rehabilitate any dog, any living thing. We can take this animal and show him or her what love is. That's all an animal needs in order for it to not be aggressive or any of these things, right? People act out when they're in pain. Animals act out when they're in pain. Yeah. So if we feel like an animal would continue acting out outside of the sanctuary, then he or she will stay here so that people can only see the beautiful side of that animal. But if we feel like an animal, man, this dog would really thrive if it just had a mom, or if it just had a dad, or if it had a family where it didn't have to fight for attention, then we adopt the animal out. And it's something so beautiful, because in the beginning, it was very hard for me to let go of an animal, because I said to myself, like, they thrive here. I know that they're well taken care of. They get all the love, all the food. They get everything they need here. They have the pack. But up until recently, when we exceeded 50 dogs and we started adopting them out through our rescue partners, I hear the families, with the dogs, and I see the dogs look even happier with them than they did with me. And it brings me so much joy, because it's really important to believe in people and to see the good in people. And as hard as it is to hear the terrible stories, it makes the beautiful story so much better. We just adopted out this dog, Moisha, a bloodhound puppy, who's my dream dog. Letting this dog go was like, I didn't know what was wrong with me, but I realized, like, everything that I do is not for dog. I'm here to make the dog's life better. And I knew Moisha would thrive better with a family. And that's exactly what he got. And I've never seen a happier dog. Like, it's really a beautiful thing, man. It really is.
There's nothing like seeing dogs get adopted. I mean, I can imagine that it's so hard for you because you spent so much time with them and built a relationship with them and a chemistry, but then there's also nothing like seeing a family that really wants this dog and wants to make them a part of their life. I think that's so great. Okay, I have a bunch of questions based on being someone who, like anyone else, watches the Asher House on Instagram. And just, there are a million questions that go along with watching you and your story. So I'm just going to fire through a couple of them. Okay.
Cool.
How do you
want me to answer them quick? You want me to answer them quickly?
Sure. Yeah. Like,
okay.
Yeah. You don't have to get into long answers. They're short questions. How do you pick who deserves to be rescued? It must be so hard.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, the dynamic of the pack has a lot to do with it. So it's really not about the dog we're about to rescue. It's about the dynamic of the pack and what I feel would be a good addition to the energy of the pack.
Right.
So, for example, if I, let's say, which is true, last week I rescued a really high anxiety dog. Really high anxiety. If it has anything next to it, it chews it up. It's just always freaking out. Until I release the dog's anxiety, I will not adopt another dog. I will not bring another dog that matches that dog's energy, or else they'll feed off each other. You see what I'm saying?
Of course.
So it all depends on the dynamic of the pack and where the dogs are. That is how I decide which dog I bring in next.
And how does it work with dogs getting along? I mean, I have two right now, and I have a little one and I have a big one, and I just rescued the big one. And, the big one was clearly abused before we brought it home and had all these issues that we didn't really know about. And then I have my little dog that I've had since almost birth, right? So they didn't get along so well. Now they do. But how does it work when in a big pack like that?
So imagine, and I've never used this analogy, so be kind to me. If you wanted to join a gang, right? and maybe there's a better word for it, but let's say there was a gang that you wanted to be a part of, okay? And the gang said, for you to be a part of our gang, you have to be okay with this, 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 and this.
Mm-hmm.
No, no negotiation. That's it. You have to be okay with these 5 things. Then you enter. You are now a part. You are now doing those 5 things. Mm. What I mean by that is when a dog comes in, we have a big pack, and we operate a certain way. With a dog, right? They are pack animals. So when a dog comes into the pack, it's already set up for them. Mm. The rules are at play. How the other dogs are acting and being, that dog realizes this is how I have to act and be. Why is that? Because if this dog comes into a gang, if this dog comes into a pack of 50 gang members and he says, I'm the king, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, it's not going to go over very well.
They're going to be like, fuck that. Mm-hmm. I can tell you,
rebellion, right? Yeah.
So it's that, they say we're a product of the people we spend time with, right? It's the same for animals. The animal, you could have the nicest chihuahua in the world, but if you put that chihuahua with 10 really feisty chihuahuas, that chihuahua is going to end up being an asshole as well.
Right.
It's about putting that dog in a better environment. That's why I'm always so confident. Like I just did this rescue video and a lot of people commented because the owner said, please tell me if it doesn't work out. They always like to act like they give a shit. Please tell me if it doesn't work out. I said, trust me, it's going to work out, right? And a lot of people commented, how did you know it was going to work out? You don't even know the dog. I know it's going to work out because that dog is now my dog. Yeah. That dog is coming into my pack. And that's how I know it's going to work out. You see what I mean by that?
Yeah, 100%. How do you get these dogs? This question my daughter brought up to me this morning because she loves you also. How do you get the dogs to trust you? Because you're going into an environment, you're seeing a dog who's super scared or abused or hasn't lived with someone because they've lived on the street for a while. How do you get them to actually trust you before you take them to the pack, but trust you personally?
Rachel, I got to tell you something, you are really beautiful at asking good questions. You know how to ask a question. Like you ask the important stuff. You can ask a lot of stuff with what I do. You ask the good questions and you're patient with me. You're really like a pro. I want you to know. I really am enjoying it. It's really beautiful. And tell your daughter that's such a good question, right? It goes back to your previous question of how do all the dogs get along so well? Mm-hmm. I know, right, that there isn't a situation that's going to make me feel like this was a mistake. Okay. The dog can feel that from me. Mm-hmm. So the dog doesn't think if I do this, he will hit me. If I do this, he will put me away. If I do this, he's going to get mad. The dog knows this guy has my back. He could feel it with my energy. He could feel it with the way with the way that I pet her, with the way that I hold her close. This guy isn't like the others, right? It is my natural instinct for me as a human to protect people. I'm a big protector. Because I was bullied so bad, I have this natural instinct to protect the weak. So when I bring in a new dog, if you were to visualize it, I take the dog and I'm holding him behind my back so that he or she can see, but in front can see, but I'm the guardian, I'm the protector, and they can feel that. It's the way that I carry them, the way that I hold them, the way that I don't hold their stories accountable. Mm-hmm. For example, when I bring in a dog, I treat that dog as if it was born that day. It's a new day. And I really believe that they can feel that. It's just like, I think the best thing about dogs is their instincts, although sometimes, it happens where a dog has bit someone innocent and things like that, but the dog usually, it's all out of fear. Mm-hmm. So I take away all of the fear, that is my objective. When I meet a dog, it's like, you're not going to fear me.
Right.
if that makes sense, you know?
100%.
And it goes with experience, Rachel. Like, I don't want people to think to themselves, "Oh, I wish I was like that." It's like, you do anything every day for the amount of time that I do it. It's like, you're going to become, if you spend you see these people with lions, and you see them wrestling the lions, at the sanctuaries, not the circus bullshit.
Uh-huh.
But you see these guys at the sanctuaries wrestling lions and hyenas, and they're playing hide and seek. It's no different than what I do with dogs. It's like, these guys live with the lions, they sleep with the lions, they eat with the lion. They are the lion looks at them as they are a lion. They don't look at them as, this is a lion. The dogs view me as the pack leader, a dog. We can communicate without communicating. All 90% of dogs will communicate non-verbally. So you learn that language. You learn what they're feeling before they have to express it. And it's just this connection, this energetic connection,
Right. Right. Have there any time been, I mean, because I know even with people and their personality, sometimes you get a bad egg, or you think one thing about someone and they're either really mentally ill in a different way, right? Has there ever been a dog that's come in that you haven't been able to rehabilitate, that you've had to send elsewhere, or that you have to keep away from the pack, and cannot introduce them at all, and they live somewhere else?
So I've had dogs. I've had dogs where I'll bring them into the pack and everything is great, and it was going really well. And sorry, my parrot is here behind me.
I see. So cute.
And everything was great. And then once they got comfortable in the pack, they said, I think I want to be the pack leader. And the pack isn't okay with that. The pack doesn't want that. So I will then have to spend a lot more time next to that dog, right? Like, really close to that dog. You see me when I'm out, I never use a leash and things like that. I will start leashing that dog. And that's my way of saying, you're not the pack leader, right? And then, of course, eventually it goes away. So dogs, just like children, will always test you. They'll always see what they can get away with. Eventually, they'll try new things. And sometimes you just bring them back to day one, right? But never from the beginning, right off the bat, has there been like, oh, this isn't going to work out,
Right.
Never.
Animal rescue is such a difficult job, business. Has there ever been a time that you have wanted to quit since you started on this mission?
I'm not joking, like every few days.
Wow.
Yeah, I consider it every few days.
And what keeps you going, or not stepping out of the game?
Because it's a selfish thought. So if I do that, everything, all the pain, all the tears, all the loss, the death, all the tragedy, the trauma, all the successes, even all of it was bullshit. If I do that, it all became selfish. Because no one ever quits. Because no one quits basketball or any sport because it's too hard for a teammate. It's because of them. And if I quit, it's because of how I feel or something happening to me. And it's it's okay to it's okay to have selfish thoughts. It's different for the action, right? You can't control your thoughts, you can control your action. I often want to quit, for what I do at this level. It's not the dogs, it's the people that make it really tough for me, Rachel. Going back to like feeling misunderstood, I'll post something and people like completely, didn't understand what I was trying to say. Like, you have to almost try to be perfect, which, if I keep the animals, people say you're hoarding dogs. If I get the animals adopted, they call me a piece of shit for showing the dog a sanctuary, then adopting it out. You can't make everybody happy. There's a lot of pressure,
And I was going to ask you about it, because you must get so many emails, calls, whatever it is, about you have to take this animal. And there's only so many.
No exaggeration, between 200 to 300 a day, wow. 200 to 300 per day.
Right.
And you know what some of them say, Rachel? If you don't take this dog, I'm going to euthanize it.
Ugh. Wow.
That's about 10 to 15 a day. Wow. Pathetic people, I'm tired of it.
Sure.
Like, I don't want the emails. I don't want the negativity. Like, you think you get to a certain place where you don't have to deal with it. And, I just didn't structure my life that way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. Do people help you? You look like you're doing it all alone from watching your Instagram. It looks like just you. I mean, there's got to be other help there. Yeah.
I have help Monday through Friday from 7 to 3.
Wow. That doesn't seem like a lot. How are you doing it all on your own? I mean, I have 2 dogs and it makes my
Yeah,
house a mess. It's like, I'm trying to figure out how to get them to be doing things so they're not bored. I mean, I know you have this amazing property to walk them all over the place, but
right. Yeah, entertaining the dogs isn't the hard part. But yeah, look, like I have a system down, but it's not I, I think I do a bad job sometimes because I think I make it look very easy on social media. I don't really know how to make it look difficult. I'm not one that films something difficult. Like, I don't know, do people want to see me picking up 6 pounds of dog shit in my living room? Like, I don't know what people, you know what I mean? So it's like, a lot of my stuff is washing the dogs, cleaning up the dogs, feeding the dogs, and it's like,
mm,
it's tough. And I'm at this stage now. So look, not too long ago, Rachel, whenever I left the responsibilities to someone else, something would go wrong.
right. I totally understand that. Yeah.
And it really hurt me. Like, really hurt me because it made me feel A, guilty for giving someone else the responsibility, and B, that I will never have freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I am now in the process of accepting whatever happens. If something goes wrong, I know it's on me, and I have to be willing to whether clean up the mess, literally, or grieve, God forbid. And then I have to make an announcement, to what, 3 million people on Facebook and 1 million on Instagram and all these other people. It's like I have to have the weight and the judgment. But you know what? Like, you have to let go.
Mm-hmm.
You at the end of the day, you realize you can't. I realize, like, I cannot sustain if I do this myself long term. I look in the mirror and I say, like, I don't recognize the face. Like, I have pictures of like collages on my walls, um, of when I started the Asher House with certain dogs that had passed away, and it's like, man, you would think that was 20 years ago. It's just a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. So I know that I need to
Have some balance.
hire hire more people and trust people to do this for me. And that's the stage I'm at in my life now, is not just from 7 to 3, but I don't have any help on the weekends. It's just me. So I'm going to start uh, working. I'm not started. I've already started working on myself to let go of more and more responsibilities and start focusing on myself more.
Right.
I think, how we talked about next chapters.
Mhm.
This next chapter for me is focusing on the Asher, not more than, but just as much as focusing on the Asher House.
Right. You were talking about the cleanup. How does it smell in your house over there? How do
Man,
you
really
get
good.
it
I
to
have
be
these.
clean?
I have a lot of help in that department. I have 3 people that are cleaning the house Monday through Friday.
Mhm.
I'm really big on things being neat and organized. Like, I don't like any spots on the floor. Spots. People are always asking me how my house is so clean in my videos. Like, I like everything done. Like, it has to look good. Like, I invest a lot of money on keeping my life organized and my house clean. I have two people from. I have 28 employees, 30 now actually. We have 30 employees, and 2 of them, all they do all day is clean outside. Like, literally from the morning to the afternoon, they're cleaning up dog poop and spraying and this, and it's one thing that I make sure, like, if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to do it where people think because we have a lot of dogs equals a lot of dog shit. Like, I
Yeah.
want us to be pristine. All the dogs get groomed every month. Some of them get groomed every weeks. Like I'm really big into keeping their nails trimmed, their ears clean, the fur, brushing. Like I run a really tight ship when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm. You were talking a little
And I
bit
think
about,
every rescue should.
yeah, it's definitely important.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, no. You were talking a little bit ago about how you think it's really important to balance your life and what you're doing, and how you need to maybe focus on you a little bit more. You bring us along on your journey of all these dogs and their story, or animals and their stories, but we rarely hear about you unless people are really listening to what you're talking about. Because normally when you're talking about the dog and their story, you can, as the viewer, can really get a lot of insight into you and your head, because you really talk more about, a metaphor kind of. At least that's what I've picked up on, and I love that.
You're absolutely right.
But do you ever get lonely doing this?
I really don't.
Wow.
I really don't. Lucky enough, I grew up alone. I even lived alone. My parents moved out when I was 15. So I didn't have the childhood where if something was wrong, I go to mom or dad. I went to me, and I went to the beach, and I remember looking at the ocean. Spanish River, not too far from you,
Yes. Yeah.
Spanish River Beach. So I would go to Spanish River Beach. I would a couple miles, and I would run there. And now it's my safe place as well. It's not a good thing. I'm really working on not isolating myself. Mm-hmm. But that's just my go-to. I like to be alone, or with the dogs, and I know it sounds weird. I don't know what that feeling feels like, loneliness. Like my parents feel it a lot. I have a lot of friends who confide in me. A lot of people, it's really open up to me. And being lonely is like a big thing. I don't feel it. I've never felt it.
Well, that's probably because you're surrounded by so much love, and you're so busy giving your
exactly
love to other people.
Exactly. It's like, the dogs are the dogs really take up so much of my time that, to me, when someone wants to have lunch with me, it's more of a task.
Sure.
Yeah,
it takes you out of what you love to be doing, where you obviously
exactly
feel your most fulfillment.
Yeah, but one of the cleaning ladies who, like, I'm very close with all my employees, and one of the cleaning ladies, like, she loves work. Like, people really do. I'm not just saying it, people fucking love working here. Like, yeah. It's a beautiful environment, like a lot of love. The dogs are friendly, so one of the cleaning ladies, she also follows me. So she gets really excited to come to work so she could be in the environment. And yesterday she said, "You're always alone. Like, you're always alone." And I said to her, "I'm never alone."
Yeah. So true, though. Your animals have such great names. Tell people, like, some of your favorite names and how you come up with names for these dogs.
Unfortunately, I can't take all of the credit. I have people like to give me their opinions when it comes to names. But a lot of times what people don't realize is I take the name that they already have, mm-hmm. and I just play off of that name so that they can still be somewhat familiar to the syllables in it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had a dog named Sarge that I named Roger, right? Because I felt like it was somewhat, maybe that's not the best example, but Sarge Raj, like, it's in the short, and but I would say the best name is probably, I never had a favorite until recently, and I rescued this dog, and I forgot the, so bad at names, but she has, her frontal lobe is messed up. Mm-hmm. And she's very wobbly, and she tries to keep up with the pack. And one of my favorite movies growing up was Matilda.
Yeah.
And I named her Matilda after that character because she was so different but so special. Right. And I would say that's my favorite one.
I love that story of Matilda. I watched it recently on your Instagram. So I knew you were talking about her, because you show the viewer, and people that are listening should really go on the Asher House at the Asher House on Instagram and
Yeah.
looked at the story of Matilda in, as one of many, but this story was so inspiring because you
Yeah.
really talk about, you show the rescue, you show taking her out of the cage or whatever, you show her bringing her and introducing her to the pack, you show she has such a hard time walking, and then you show that transformation of how she looks so happy. And
So good. Yeah.
yeah, and you get teary-eyed, which made me, totally start
Oh,
sobbing because you were like, listen, if you've ever felt misunderstood or like no one loves you and everyone's going to give up on you, this is just a pure example of someone who thrives with love, and everyone just needs to be loved or stop and think. I thought that was such a great message. I mean, it almost brings me to tears talking about it because it's so universal and makes so much sense. I mean, people are so harsh to not realize that you're walking down the street and people are going through so much, even though they look like they're not. And especially with now the social media we have, where it's all smoke and mirrors and people can look their best and seem their best in photos. Inside, they're the ones that put their heads on the pillow and are sometimes going through so much. And I think just that story in particular, and I'm sure you have a million more, but was just a huge eye opener of like, people need to realize that love can change someone's life, and just not giving up on someone who's frustrating you or isn't the same. That was the other message. You were like, if you're not the same, embrace that because it's so beautiful as opposed to feeling different. And I just thought it
it's
was
so
amazing.
complicated to accept, right? Like, it's so complicated to accept, but it's just, there's no way around it. Like, your differences are what make you beautiful. Like, the things that you want to change about yourself, the things that, maybe you got bullied about or someone broke up with you over, your uniqueness, it's what makes you so beautiful. I was talking to a friend of mine, this girl, and she's like, I really need a friend to talk to. I said, okay, which I really don't. I got to be honest, I don't like being that person. I'm busy enough, but this was a very good friend of mine. And I said, okay, yeah, let's talk tonight. And she said, I think my boyfriend is going to break up with me. And I said, what's up? And she said, like, he gets so embarrassed by me. I said, how so? And she said, well, an example, we were walking in an outdoor shopping mall yesterday, and this girl had these two puppies, and I was like playing with them, and they were jumping on me, and I was on the floor, and he was so embarrassed that I was on the floor. And I said, break up with this guy immediately. Immediately. I said, I think that that's the best thing about you. That's the best thing about you, is like, if I said, wouldn't you rather have, instead of changing that about yourself, wouldn't you rather have a boyfriend who would be on the floor with you?
Yeah. Right.
Right. And she was like, she never looked at it that way. Right. Instead of thinking of what she could add to her life, she was thinking about how to change her life for this guy. And
Mm-hmm.
she did. She broke up with him. And it's like, we should never change ourselves based off what other people think. It's what makes you different. That's what's so hard, is because there would be way more successful people, not just financially, definitely financially, but also, as far as finding your purpose and all these things, if we didn't let the world or people shape you.
Mm-hmm.
If you accepted that you were different, loved that you were different, embraced that you were different, and then acted on your differences, that's your ticket to success. And again, I don't mean that financially, I mean success in every way. Love, relationship, you name it,
Right. You do such a good job of showing these stories in your content, and these heartwarming stories. And most people are sharing in tears of joy with you as they watch these stories happen. But there are times when obviously the animal is at the end of their life or sick and does need to be put to sleep. And we go on that journey with you as well. And we're sharing in those tears with you as you have to say goodbye to animals. What's that like for you, having to do that so often?
Which part, dealing with it or sharing it, or both?
Um, well, first of all, the dealing with it. I mean, the sharing with it, I'm assuming it helps you get through it so you're not doing it by yourself almost. But and we can talk about that. But what's that like to have to care for these animals and then put them to sleep? I mean, I know watching pom-poms, let's say, um,
Yeah,
be
yeah.
put to sleep, and every time they leave you, it must be so difficult.
You know, now I know this sounds really weird, so let me know if I explain this the right way, please. Now, I'm so grateful that they're able to leave with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I used to have this like I used to be by the animal crying, you know, saying I'm sorry, and I used to tell the animal what I wish I could have done differently. I'd tell the animal I wish I had more time, and I would cry. And I regret every time I did that because the animal just felt this pain from me.
Yeah.
I wish I did what I do now, where I tell the animal everything I love about her, and I tell him how amazing, just how amazing of a dog they are to me, and how grateful. I mean, I kiss them with a smile because I know, you know, I know that like they will feel this positive, this is a good feeling. It will be a beautiful passage. And by doing this, it's much more peaceful for me. You know, once the animal is gone, I am bawling and crying. But during our last few moments together, it is nothing but joy. And it's a celebration of life. It's a celebration of the life that this animal gave to me, and the celebration of life that this animal has given to everyone, including the pack. And I know it's hard, but for anyone listening, when you say goodbye to your loved ones, do it with a beautiful sense of passion and love, and not sadness or regret. Make sure to only grieve once they're gone. Don't grieve for a second that they're here. And when you do grieve while they're here, don't let them see it.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what you're doing. They just said that this doesn't feel good. I sometimes reflect back on the times where I was so emotional, you know, saying goodbye, and boy, oh boy, do I regret those moments so much in my life.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know any better, but it's really hard for me. But you know, at this stage, with how many animals we rescue, I do realize, like, look, you know, you have 50 dogs. Dogs are going to die.
Yeah.
You know, dogs are going to get sick. Dogs are going to get hurt. Accidents are going to happen. You have 50 dogs, and you just have to accept that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It, death is as equal of an importance to life as life itself. You know, so
That's right. And I think
uh,
for a lot of
yeah,
people listening who've either gone through losing a pet or are dealing with making that decision on when to put a pet to sleep, know that, I mean, losing a pet is like worse than having a broken leg. I mean, it is so painful. And I've lost a few pets in my life, and I couldn't get out of bed sometimes for a week because it
yeah,
devastated me so much. And it's also hard, you know, sometimes you lose a pet early on in their life, and that's really hard because you feel like they haven't, you know, had this big life. And then you also can lose a pet after having it for 20 years. And that's just as devastating because you've spent all this time with this one animal that's been in your life. And if I can just indulge you for 1 second of one story of my animal,
please.
when I was about 26, I was dating a man, and his name was Andy, and we lived together, and he forbid me to get a dog. So, of course, on my way home every day, I would pass this dog store, and this was in Manhattan. And I would, you know, look at the dogs in the window. And finally, one day I came home with a dog, and Andy was like, "What, are you crazy? I forbid you to get a dog. What are you doing?" And I said, "Let's
Uh-huh.
just try this for a week and see how it goes. And if you hate it, I'll bring it back." So, you know, I have all these pictures of Andy, you know, hugging the dog. Was a tiny little Jack Russell Terrier. We named it Mickey for Mickey Blue Eye.
Oh, that's a great name.
Had blue eyes. And so I have all these pictures of Andy hugging the dog when he thought I wasn't looking, like he would sleep and the dog would be, you know, next to him or whatever, and running
Yeah,
around with the dog and whatever. So fast forward about 3 weeks later, we were getting ready to go to Greece. And Andy proposed to me, and I felt like this was this great family that we were going to have now, this dog, and he loved the dog. He let me keep the dog. And out of nowhere, the dog developed seizures one day, and it ended up, we found out it had distemper. It came from a dog store here in Manhattan.
No
Yeah,
fucking way.
which is a horrible thing. You know, people really shouldn't be getting
It's
animals from pet stores.
it will kill your dog. Oh
Yeah,
my! How
and
long have
so
you had the dog?
I had the dog for a month, and
Oh
so
my
we had to go and put the dog to sleep, and I was sobbing. And Andy came, you know, and met me from work. He worked on Wall Street and came and met me. He left his job early, and I was just sobbing. And he's like, "Rachel, you have to realize that everything happens for a reason." And I said, "What? How could you give me that metaphor now? Nothing happens for a reason. We've had this dog for a month. It didn't get to have a life." And he sat me down and he said, "Rachel, you have to understand, you loved that dog more than anyone in the world could have. And it thought that you
Right,
were its mom. And we loved
right,
that dog so much. It didn't know that it maybe was supposed to live till it was 15. It lived
right.
life. And you should really embrace the fact that it was loved so much. Well, you had it, and you were there for the minute that you know, it died." So I thought, okay, well, whatever. I'll figure out at one point how this is going to, you know, come to pass, that I feel like it was meant to be. So anyways, about a week later, so Andy and I went to Greece. We were leaving 3 days later. We went to Greece. We came back. And a day after Andy and I got back from Greece, Andy was killed in the World Trade Center.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And sorry. And so I went back and I got, I didn't know what to do. And
Oh my God.
so I went back to that pet store. That happened on a Tuesday. On Thursday, I went to the pet store and I said, "My dog died. My fiance was killed by terrorists. I need a dog." So they let me pick out any dog I wanted. And there was a Brussels Griffin sitting in a cage.
Yeah.
His
So
eyes
cute.
were like looking in different directions, and he was all furry and weird looking. But he just, when I walked back and forth, he stared at me every time I walked back. And I said, "That's my dog. I want that dog." And I named that dog Rudy Giuliani. And because Rudy was such a hero then. And I had the dog for 20 years. And through the 20 years that I had that dog, he was the constant man in my life, so to speak. He got me through everything. And I love that dog. But to spool back for 1 second, a year later, you know, it was kind of easy to go through that trauma, not easy, but easier to go through that trauma because I went through it so publicly. And my picture was on a cover of every newspaper in the world because I have a famous photo of me looking for Andy kind of in the rubble or whatever. And people would check in with me, and I had people at my home for weeks, and, you know, but eventually that goes away. People go back to their lives, and I was alone with my thoughts, and alone for the first time. So a year after September 11th happened, I had to take a leave of absence. I had a really hard time dealing with it. And I went away to kind of a sanctuary in Brazil to do like a hiking trip for 2 weeks by myself with this group. And in the middle of the night, I woke up and I had this dream, and I sat up and I said to my roommate, "Oh my God, I know why Mickey died." And she's like, "Who the hell's Mickey? What are we talking about?" And I said, "Mickey died so Andy could be the one to teach me the lesson that he wasn't supposed to live till he was maybe 80 or 90, that he lived the life he was supposed to live. And I shouldn't grieve and be so upset and not be able to get through life thinking, like, every time I'm in a cab, oh, Andy should have been sitting here. We're supposed to get married on this date, or I'm supposed to have him as my husband and I lost out." Mickey died so Andy could teach me the lesson that when someone dies, that's their time. And that as long as you loved them and felt loved by them, that, you know, that was their life. And so at that moment, I was like, I know my purpose of why Mickey died so Andy could teach me that story so that I could
My
get
gosh.
over Andy easier. Anyway, so the point is that dogs share such a big story, and their death can actually mean something if you look for the meaning. And it might take you a long time, and it hurts so bad when they go. But it's, you know, there is a meaning behind each thing. I truly
You're so beautiful. My God.
thanks.
What that is, I mean, thank you so much for sharing that with me.
yeah.
I
And
talk about,
Rudy lived for 20 years, and he was just the best. And putting him to
yeah,
sleep was also very hard, but I knew, you know, at that moment that it was right. And I'm glad you're telling me what the best way to do it is, because I sat there and I was brave, and I kind of, you know, held on to him until the end. And then when he was put to sleep, then I lost it. But I'm glad I had that lifetime with him, and
Yeah.
it's been hard for me not to have a dog in my life. I said I would never
Yeah.
get one again, but I had to go get another and another, so I think
Yeah.
that,
Trust me,
but
I
talk,
get that.
yeah. So talk about the difference really quickly, about why people should adopt from a shelter. Because I think so many people make the mistake of thinking they have to get a dog, a purebred, from a breeder or from a pet store because they're so beautiful in the window.
Yeah. First of all, I mean, it's hard for me to just skip over. I just want to say, like, not, I think the point, you have proven the point of why people go through hard times. You have proven why people have. And many people use their experiences for reasons of being, maybe not the best of people, right? Either being very negative or cruel or things like that. So for you to use your experience in such a beautiful way and have such a meaningful and life-changing message to even myself, I mean, I am now going to, adopt that belief as well, which I appreciate. And boy, thank you so much for sharing that with me. Seriously, that is incredible. I did not see that story going that way. I mean, I can't believe what I just heard. So thank you so much for being vulnerable with me. I really appreciate it.
Of course, thank you.
Um, now, when I started the Asher House, it was my following that inspired the Asher House, not so much me. That inspired the mission, I should say. I So many people were asking me about my dogs, Lily, a Saint Bernard, Stella, who passed away. He was this beautiful pit bull. She looked like she was $500,000, And Lily had been at the shelter for a month. Stella had been at the shelter for nearly 4 months. All of my different dogs with these different stories, people are trying to buy them from me on social media, thinking. So it hit me that people don't go to animal shelters. People are too afraid to go to animal shelters. And I would have these conversations on my lives, and they basically, because of all the commercials you see on TV, where it's really sick dog, really scared dog, a dog with one eye, begging for a donation. The shelters don't show that, the shelters aren't showing 99% of the dogs. They're only showing that one section of the shelter that you're not even allowed to go into.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you guys are afraid to go in shelter. What do you think is in shelters? And they said either really sick dogs or really mean pit bulls.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no way, dude. So I made it my mission to show people the dogs that are inside shelters. And still today, on purpose, I just rescued this. I mean, in my opinion, uh, the Akita, to me, as far as looks go, the Akita is the most beautiful dog in the world. Like, it is just uh, an exquisite animal. And I've never had one because I wanted to rescue one. And just at the shelter that I go to all the time, they had this, she had a broken hip. She was hit by a car, but now she's fine, and this beautiful Akita. And I can tell you, if you want a purebred, I just want you to know something. That dog, most likely, doesn't matter where you go, most likely that dog, and I'm sorry to say this, I'm just going to be really blunt here, okay,
Yeah.
is going to not have a long life. It's most likely going to have a shorter lifespan than a mixed breed. Why is that? Because most purebred dogs are inbreded. There are no matter what laws you hear of, the animal like laws, welfare, it's not very strict. That's why we're always getting these neglected animals that animal care won't do anything about, because they can't do anything about it. Dogs are just property.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's just property. So when people don't care about their property, they don't care what happens to the property as long as it's making them money.
Mm-hmm.
And you should not. It's terrible because they're forcing their dogs to basically have sex and get pregnant as many times as they can,
Mm-hmm.
until they're done with that dog. You shouldn't be supporting that in the first place. But if that doesn't bother you, if that's not a reason, then for your own financial purposes of spending that kind of money on a dog, the health risks that are going to come with that are extreme. There's just a long list of things. And It's as far as the smart thing to do, it's not even about just the conscious, good, compassion act of rescuing. It's literally the smart thing to do. Like, it's better for the dog, but it's also better for you. It's gonna save you time in the vet's office and many other things. And I just encourage people, if you can't decide whether or not you should adopt or go to a breeder, I ask you to just, for a month, it doesn't have to be just once, for a month, every week, go to two different shelters. Go to two shelters a week for a month. And if there's only three of them in your area, go to the same ones for that month. And if you don't fall in love with a dog in the next month, and if you're not in a rush, please extend it to 2 months. And if you're not in a rush, extend it to 3. But if you're like, I want a dog in the next 3 weeks, or I want a dog in the next 6 months, then I want you to just continue visiting your shelter. And I can guarantee you're going to find a dog to rescue. You're going to fall in love. You're going to have that. You're just going to know, and you're going to find your soulmate. You're going to find your dog. But you have to try. It's very easy to go to a breeder's website, see all the cute puppies, pick one, and then, you're set. I always encourage people, get the dog that you want. Don't let the rescue world bully you into any sort of breed, into any sort of dog. No one's trying to bully you here. I just ask you, not tell, I ask you to please visit a shelter a few times a month or a few times a week, whatever you have time. And I think that you'll find your dog there.
That's such great advice. And also, people have to realize that, it's a lifelong commitment. So you should take some time to really do
Thank
the
you for saying
research
that. Yes.
and get involved, because so many people are just, their kid says, oh, I want a puppy, and they see a cute puppy and they want it. And then, it becomes something that's like a doll to them, and they put it to the wayside when they find a better toy,
And one thing, if I can please add, if you are breed specific, which means if, let's say, you're set on having a golden retriever, or you're set on having an Akita, or whatever type of dog, there isn't a breed out there that doesn't have a specific rescue group. Every breed has a rescue group. So if you're not in a rush, which you just mentioned you shouldn't be when you're getting an animal, get in touch with a rescue. There's a variety of them. You can have 3 rescues that you build a relationship with, and have them, it's their job, have them help you find this dog that you're looking for. But be willing to get a dog. Let's say you want an 8-week-old puppy. It's not going to happen, but you don't really want an 8-week-old puppy. I mean, there's nothing harder to take care of than a puppy. So if you want a puppy, be willing to get a 5-month-old or a 6-month-old dog, which is a great age for you. That way you can really already see the behavior, of the dog, and take your time and go to a rescue and have them help you get the dog that you want.
Right, right. A lot of these dogs have inspired creations for you. I think it was Lily, I'm not sure if I'm right, has helped you create your CBD line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just tell us
You
about
mentioned,
that.
well, you mentioned, which I'm sorry to bring up, but you mentioned distemper. Luckily, it wasn't distemper, but Lily, the 4th day after adopting Lily, I realized that she had these awful seizures, and they were just getting worse. At the time, I was very new to actually rescuing animals, so I was pretty nervous. It really freaked me out. Witnessing a seizure is like a scary thing. Now I've witnessed many, but I was trying all these different things. I was spending a lot of money that I really couldn't afford. It was for the first time where I didn't know what to do, where, the doctors had recommended putting her down. And somebody recommended CBD to me. And, CBD sometimes can take a week or 2 to work, but with Lily, it worked right away. And CBD was something that I was taking for my back pain. I didn't know we could give it to the dogs. This is 7 years ago, so it wasn't as popular. And she hasn't had a seizure since. So it was something that I became very passionate about. I believed in it because it worked for my own dog. We talked about earlier about don't talk about experiences unless you experience them, right? So this was for me an experience for me that changed my dog's life, and I just wanted to share it with the world. So I bought that same CBD line and created it and started my own.
That's amazing. All right, last couple questions here. The Asher House kind of started as a short-term dream, maybe going on a drive for 3 months or whatever, but now it's turned into your career. How do you fund all of this, and how can people help get involved and donate? Or
So 100% the only way, because there's a lot of scammers out there, so thank you for asking, is the only way to donate to the Asher House is on our website. There
okay.
is no other place to donate, and everything on the AsherHouse.com is 100% nonprofit. All of it. It's 100% nonprofit. So if you go to the AsherHouse.com, all of the merchandise is nonprofit, and of course, if you click donate, there is a monthly option as well, and that's all nonprofit too.
And is there a goal that you have every year? Like, how much does it cost you a year to keep this up and running, or a month?
Um, for the for animal sanctuary alone and the dogs, it's about, I would say, around seven to $800,000 a year. Our bills are,
Wow.
so it's not cheap. But it's not just dogs. That, let's not forget, it's that much because we have horses,
Right.
donkeys, goats, alpacas, llamas. We have
Birds, like we
12
see your
pigs.
parrot behind you.
We have parrots. We have a lot of different dogs, a lot of different animals, and we have 7 cats now. We're about to be 9 cats. So, you think about how much the average dog costs a month, you multiply that by 50 as well with the space and everything. It's literally a fortune.
Right. Yeah, literally. So, and I'm sure any donation helps. Like, people should go on the website. It's the asherhouse.com.
Yeah, the astronauts.com. Even, guys, like when it's that many people, what people don't realize, even a dollar,
Yeah.
it's like you do what you can. And what I will say, if it's not to our shelter, to our sanctuary, uh, please donate to your local shelter. Please donate to your local rescue. If you are passionate about an animal shelter, although I really appreciate, Rachel, you talking about my foundation and my organization, giving is a habit. So if this is not a habit for you and you're about to give one time and your only time, then I'd rather you give it to your local shelter. But if you are looking into making giving a habit, whether it be $1 a month or $5 a month, then my organization would be very grateful to be a part of that giving.
Just out of curiosity, because you talked about your former boss, I think you said his name was Al, who was disappointed in you. Do you still talk to him now? What does he think of you?
Oh my God, what a beautiful! You're so funny. I love him so much. He loves me so much. He is a better mentor to me now than before. We have a different sort of relationship now where it's not just me asking for advice, it's now a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I have to tell you, I don't have many people in my life, but I have him in my life and he has me, and I love that guy. I love him so much. Like, I love him, and I have to tell you something. He never does anything without reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he does everything for a reason. And I never asked him this because I don't want to bring it up, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did it on purpose. I think he may have told me that to really light the fire under my ass because I really needed it at the time. And I think that he taught me no one needs to believe in you if you believe in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure he does not think you're stupid anymore and thinks your
No,
decision was the best one for you and for so many other people and animals.
most definitely.
The last question I have for you is, what is left on your bucket list that still needs to be done? I know you said your vision board was accomplished, but is there something you're looking forward to and hope to achieve?
Yeah, I haven't announced it, so this is my first time announcing it. So you're the first to hear it. Um, we're opening up an animal shelter.
Wow.
And it's going to be very similar to the layout. We'll be able to go there and volunteer and adopt a dog and adopt a cat, and it's going to be really something special. So that's the next step, is opening up this animal shelter.
And when is that going to happen?
um if I had to guess, I think it'll be open and running this time next year. That's would be my estimate.
Okay, amazing. So I'm sure we will all look out for that information, so people can get involved. All right, so tell people where they can find you, where they can, again, donate, and how people can find you on Instagram and on YouTube.
Yeah,
You do a lot of.
yeah, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. It's the Asher House, and there's no other way to get a hold. There's a lot of fake Asher House accounts. I hate to say it, but there's a lot of, fake accounts that ask people for money. I don't answer direct messages. I don't speak to pretty much anyone. I don't have the time. So, if you're ever speaking to me, it's not accurate. So please be careful. That's the first thing I want to say. But all the ways to contact us, to contact our organization, or anything like that, to donate, all the information is on theasherhouse.com.
And I think you also have 9 puppies, I think you said, that are coming in that you're going to need to adopt.
Yep. So next Sunday, we have 6 German Shepherd Golden Retrievers coming in, 2 Akita Husky mixes, and a Doberman. So we'll have to bring them in. They're coming from Texas, which Texas needs a lot of help when it comes to animals. But we'll be rehabilitating them, and then they'll be available for adoption at our partner rescue, which is Family Dogs New Life Animal Shelter.
Okay. And do they have an Instagram so people can follow that?
Oh, absolutely. Family Dog New Life Animal Shelter as well. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much. I cannot wait to see where all of this takes you. And I can't wait to meet you in person one day. And as I said to you before we started, I feel like part of my purpose that I've found is to tell other people's stories. It makes me feel good, makes me feel great getting to meet them and asking the questions that I want to know. And I think other people would want to know too. And you literally, I feel like, is one of the reasons I started this podcast, so I can meet you, hear your story, and make sure that people hear your story, because I think it's so inspirational for everybody.
I got to tell you, your viewers, I'm sure already know it, but I've done a lot of these, and you are the fucking best. Like, you are so good and so genuine and just pure and beautiful. It's not my place to say, since you kind of invited me, if you will, to give my opinion. I not agree with you more. I think that is a beautiful purpose, to help people tell their stories. Stories are what inspires people and connects people and makes people feel like they can relate. And I personally have never had someone do it better than you. So I really, really appreciate the opportunity, and I look forward to doing it again with you if you'll have me.
Thank you. I would love to have you again. And I think for anyone that feels misunderstood, they should definitely hop on to the Asher House and really watch what goes on with these animals, because you will find some insight into your own life. And I think it's just so, it's gotten me through times, and I'm sure it'll get other people through times as well. Answer a lot of questions internally for themselves.
And I just want to remind people, I promise you, I don't even know you, I promise you this, the more misunderstood you feel, the more special you are, but you have to use it for a force for good. Just remember that. If it's not a force for good, it's not your purpose. You're a force for good, a force for beauty. And I really wish how powerful people knew that you were, like you really are here for a reason. And there's no time limit. You could spend your whole life trying to figure that out, as long as you're doing goodness. Just keep doing good stuff, and it's going to happen. I promise. Goodness always prevails. Someone who's like a mother to me, Rebecca, who you'd spoken to, she always says that goodness always prevails, and she's so right. Do the right thing, do good, do a good job, do the best that you can, and it's all going to work out. And when it's not working out, it's for a reason. It's because that's not right for you yet, and just keep going. I promise.
Thank you so much. What an amazing message. Okay. Take care. Thank you.
I love you.